The Mexican horror film Parvulos, Children of the Apocalypse, premiered at Fantasia Fest in 2024 and has now found a release schedule. Dom Torreto would be very proud because this is all about family. It's hitting theaters right now and will probably be available on VOD soon, but is it something you should watch? In a dystopian future ravaged by a viral apocalypse, three young brothers find themselves isolated in a remote cabin deep within the woods. As they navigate this desolate world, they harbor a dark and disturbing secret in their basement, a presence they must feed to ensure their own survival. So the film has the potential to hurt your eyes while viewing because it's color corrected to be very desaturated. It's almost black and white, but there's obviously still a tiny bit of color, making the world just appear devoid of hope or joy. Now, at certain times, a color may pop for emphasis, but it's rare. And these short bursts of color promise a glimmer of optimism that maybe the world might return to a state of normalcy. But based on the gruesome imagery we're shown, that really seems like a long shot. Now, for animal lovers, you need to be aware that there is a scene early on in the movie that involves violence with the dog. We see enough of this to create some distress, and then a bit later, we see the aftermath and what the animal is used for. Now, the theme of scarcity plays out throughout the story, but these particular instances of brutality, they're not shown much, thankfully. Now, the story feels a bit like a twisted mix of The Blue Lagoon and The Road, with much less underage nudity. Now, I know those are at polar extremes from each other, but it's a story of survival combined with kids who are left to fend for themselves amidst daunting circumstances. The three brothers we watch are excellent at capturing naivete and resolve. The curiosity of the youngest combined with his optimism I found encouraging, but also dreadful because we can be almost certain that normalcy is not going to return. The oldest brother, he's pragmatic, trying to fill the role of parent, protector, and sibling to his brothers all at once. Now, I appreciate the frustration that he displays through having to navigate this new world's treachery. He's not a hard-ass, though, all the time. While he has hardened himself out of protection, he still retains softness and compassion. And it's a tough balance to maintain, but he makes the persona endearing. And then with the middle brother, he's pretty much like any middle child. Adventurous, rebellious, sometimes sarcastic, but also scrappy. And the trio, they're very sympathetic thanks to their vulnerability, and then easy to root for and forgive when they do dumb things. I mean, they're kids, trapped in an unimaginable nightmare. Now, I know it probably sounds like this film is going to put you in the bell jar with how discouraging the setting and environments are. You'd be right. This is a dark storyline. There's a bit of morbid humor within it, but mostly this contains dreadful tension and gnarly imagery. The makeup and prosthetics, they're excellent, creating disgusting beings that are just wrong in every sense of the word. And despite the nasty visuals, there's a sweet longing and hope that's maintained by the brothers. And this creates a somewhat confusing emotional response. I mean, because they're kids, they have illogical ideas and wishes. But the film doesn't dismiss these outright. Instead, it creates scenarios that upend our expectations and then alter the story trajectory in surprising ways. Now, there was one sequence, though, that is completely predictable within its setup. I mean, not that it ruins the plot progression, but it's obvious where a certain interaction is going to lead. And despite that overt arc, there's a pounding monologue that exploits zealotry and uses that fervor then to ratchet up the uneasiness. I mean, I knew where the scene was going, but it didn't stop it from being nail-biting. Now, I was enamored by the setting of the movie. The kids are holed up in this dilapidated house that's right near a forest. The trees create an otherworldly landscape full of dangers and hiding places, and thanks to the musical score and camera movements, an atmosphere of suspense and apprehension is built. To also complement the feeling of mild hope that the kids have, some of the setting is shown to be open and luxurious, wealth that's just right in the middle of a catastrophe. I mean, it's like that bright spot in the middle of a dark day, and it works on a subtle level within the plot. Now, this is just at 2 hours in length, and while the pace of some of this is slower, there is an intensity to the storyline that keeps it from becoming dull or uneven. The suspense and uneasiness, they're maintained throughout, and even when there's an emotional reprieve for just a moment, the underlying stress, it's still there. And as the film reaches its climax, the pacing increases, so the strain that we feel becomes horrific and sad. And I don't think this storyline would have worked nearly as well if we were watching adults in the same situation instead of kids. From a family perspective, the emotional investment, that could still be produced, but the discomfort and fear would be difficult to believe, especially because some of the complications rely on naive decisions, which the kids believably make. Now, I think this is going to stick with you for a bit. It's haunting how dreadful some of the scenes become. The storytelling plays with our emotions by alternating between hopeless scenarios and optimistic interactions, taking us on a violent roller coaster that shakes us up, spins us around, then forces us to down a fizzy drink while eating a handful of worms. But it's not a typical horror movie. I mean, there is gore, and some of it is incredibly stomach-turning and nasty. And there's also just that impending dread and fear. But it's also very much a relational story at the core. The bond between brothers and their desire to keep their family together, that's what drives the story. So if you are going into this expecting a traditional slasher or maybe zombie flick, that doesn't really create that. But if you want an emotionally manipulative and dark storyline that's not going to necessarily leave you happy, this one certainly delivers. So overall, Parvulos is a tense family survival drama wrapped in a melancholy horror. The sparse settings and desaturated color palette create a dreary existence, complementing the hopeless feature that only promises sadness and death. With excellent practical effects, the gore creates visceral reactions, with measured and not overused gimmicks that simply go for a gross out. This will most likely leave you depressed and sad, but the film does leave us with a glimmer of light, never negating the horrors we witnessed, but helping us to move through them. There's sex, maybe some brief nudity, some profanity, and a bunch of nasty violence. I give Parvulos, Children of the Apocalypse, 4 out of 5 couches. And if you enjoy non-traditional horrors, this is a good one to see. Okay, what are you binging right now? Anything that you can recommend? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.